if you just put your mind to it and get out of your own way, you can make anything you want come true.
I just try to do what I can with what I have and try to write surrounding that.
I'm a cinematographer first and a writer second, and I have to really balance myself on that, not just make everything, it just looks pretty. No, there's got to be like actual story there too.
I believe that films are powerful when they're able to touch the soul. And I believe that every single one of the films we watched tonight did that in such a powerful way.
So this is a Nader, and this is what he's written. I'm reading on his behalf. Since we are at the BraveMaker Festival, I want to be brave and say these 3 words in the microphone with my own voice.
The BraveMaker community to me is family. It's all of us. We're all telling stories and standing up for something.
I want to create space for filmmakers, for audiences, and for connection. And I do it because if I don't, who will?
We all make films because we want to tell stories that inspire and that connect. And BraveMaker gives you that opportunity to actually be with your actual audience and be able to see their reactions and react with them.
BraveMaker Festival is one of a kind. Everyone who comes to BraveMaker really cares about their craft, their background, their stories. Everyone has something to share, and definitely BraveMaker is a community where people are connected.
Everyone's just been so welcoming and so genuine. It's just so nice to be in this community, and everyone's just working really hard at what they're passionate about.
Tony has done just an amazing job with organizing this film festival, done a lot of panels and experienced a lot of great films. It's been a great experience.
Everything he does is to elevate important topics, important voices, inclusion. Now he has people here doing sign language. So to me, being a BraveMaker is impact, inclusion. I love what BraveMaker is about.
It's about working within the box. What are the parameters? So it's knowing who you are, what you can do, what you can pull off, and using those resources to the best of your advantage.
We can see all around us the reason why BraveMaker needs to exist, so that we can celebrate Bay Area filmmakers and Bay Area stories.
I just appreciate festivals like this that allow for us Bay Area filmmakers to showcase our work and to be appreciated by, homegrown audience.
So I am asking everyone to make sure that we continue festivals like this and donate to this brother that is making change happen.
Jessica Musgrave! And I know that if I can benefit from it, if I can feel celebrated for my storytelling, then other people will too, because I'm trying to create and make space for people to be brave, because I need it, and I know the world needs it too.
I am a BraveMaker.
I am a BraveMaker.
I'm a BraveMaker.
We are BraveMakers.
Hosted by Tony Gapperstone. Thanks for tuning in. It's showtime.
Hello. It is episode 291 of the BraveMaker Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in live, or if you're watching or listening on the replay. My name is Tony Gapperstone. I am a writer, director, and actor. I am based in Redwood City, California. This is the Bay Area, San Francisco. And for 7 years, BraveMaker has been a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to education, entertainment, and community with film for justice, diversity, and inclusion. I love getting to do this work And thank you for following along. If you're watching us today, I invite you to interact with our special guest. Before I invite her on, I like to do an inclusive and physical description. I'm a Caucasian guy with a black shirt, black glasses. I have brown graying hair now, and I am in our BraveMaker studio that has a pink scripted word. It says BraveMaker with a faux green wall behind me. Now, I have a really cool connection with our guest that is coming on. I actually got to meet her in person and have our first podcast interview back in 2020. Yes, February to be exact of 2020, after I met her through watching her play in San Francisco and then connecting on none other than Twitter. So with no further ado, I will invite a multiple master's degree holder, very, very talented actor who's also currently a professor in San Diego. Hello, Kathryn Smith-McGlynn. Let's go.
Hello. First, I want to say welcome to the Brown Gray Club.
Yes, totally.
I think it's too.
I'll take it. Yeah, it's very maturing when you have your hair like pepper gray, salted gray.
Isn't it?
Right?
Yes.
Well, with that, Kathryn, go ahead. We'd like to do an inclusive description, physical, we say your pronoun, whatever you want to do, and where you're coming from for our listeners.
Hi, I'm coming live and in color to you from San Diego County in Escondido, California. And I am an African-American woman with caramel-colored skin, wearing a burgundy sweater with a V-neck and 2 large hoop earrings, and I have brown and gray hair. Is that good?
Fantastic. Love it. And so, Kathryn, check this out. I was listening to our podcast that we first did, and it's number 46 of the BraveMaker podcast. Y'all, go listen to this, because I want to even talk all the things that we talked about in 2020. You are doing so many things. You have such a cool background. You've been in part of so many cool things. And I said this on episode 46, but we're connected because of the power of social media. I saw you in a play, and I just reached out on good old Twitter and found out you were in the Bay, and then we got to hang out in person. So I just love that I've been able to follow your career and see what you're up to, and you're doing some really cool things. So I reached back out after I saw you on Pulse. Congratulations on Netflix.
Yes.
So let's hear it. What's going on? What's new? You're teaching the business of acting right now, but you're still acting. You're doing film, TV, theater. You're still doing all of the things. Let's hear about it.
Doing all of the things, I mean, I tell my students all the time, get out there and insert yourself, insert yourself into the spaces that you want to be. And that's what I've always done all my life. In this business, it's, any artist is dealing with constant change and evolution. And that's what we're dealing with today. And so there's no prescribed recipe. There's no prescribed road. People always ask, well, how do you get to where you are? How do I get to do that thing? And on one of my podcasts, The Green Room, we spoke to Jacole Kitchen, who is the casting director at La Jolla Playhouse here. And people ask her the same thing. And she was like, I don't know how you become this, but I can tell you how I did it. Right. So everyone has their own, as you would say, brave path to go. Right. And so that's what I'm out here doing. So yeah, I'm teaching business of acting right now. So I'm down in here in lovely, beautiful Escondido, California. And I bebop back and forth between here and the Bay. Bay is always going to be my family up there. I was just there in the fall doing a play at Cap Stage called Fairview, directed by the wonderful Anthony Dewan. So I'm excited to what the future holds. And Pulse was in the top 3 actually shows streamed on Netflix. So we are very excited about that. And hopefully, you never know. Maybe there's going to be a season 2, but I'm living in the present, right? That's all I can control.
So anybody who loves that gritty and bloody hospital type show, this is for you. I'll admit my stomach's a little weak sometimes on that thing. I'm like, oh my gosh. But the drama, It's a little something. The drama is real. The
It's a little
characters.
edgier. You know, it's the drama is real. The drama's real.
How did that all come to be for you? Just like you're doing a lot of TV, you're doing stage. Just talk about getting on that show. Anything you can say about playing that paramedic role that you have?
You know, when it came to me, and I read it, you know, sometimes there are roles that you read and you go, oh, this would be cool to do, but it doesn't necessarily click. And then there are roles like Shannon Kincaid that come across your desk and you read it and you go, is someone in my head writing for me? Because it's one of those roles that for me, it just fit like a glove. It was as if it was written specifically for me. And I just slipped right into it. I love the character. You know, Shannon is the veteran paramedic, and she infuses comedy and everything that she does. She kind of finds the lighthearted. She's got that hard, acerbic kind of sarcastic wit. And she kind of digs into Nia a little bit, you know, likes to rattle Nia a little bit because Nia's the neophyte. You know, and so she likes to, you know, kind of bring her down to earth a little bit, you know, but with love. You know, she's kind of like the auntie paramedic.
So can you talk about, we have a lot of actors. I teach acting classes here with BraveMaker. We do production. We're like 15 days away from principal photography of our second feature film, which is very exciting. So all the actors out there, what are some of the things that you personally do for prep when you book a role or even in the audition? What are the thought processes? Are you doing the Uta Hagen questions? Are you journaling first person stream conscious? What do you do to prepare for that role?
You know what? It depends on the role. You know, some roles I start out and I journal, and I mean, from a thorough background, everything from scoop to nuts. And then other roles, I just let it fly because I don't want to overthink it a lot. That kind of from the Matthew McConaughey school of acting, where you kind of, and he's talked about, you know, you just kind of you let it marinate. You know, I remember actually when I was auditioning for Wakey Wakey at ACT in San Francisco. I think that was back when you interviewed me. And
That's right.
Yeah, and I was really, really busy at that time. And I was finding, like, when am I going to have time to prepare for this audition? And I read it, and it was one of those things where I took a new approach for myself. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to marinate on the story and marinate on character and what she's going through. And I took about a week to do it. I didn't try to memorize any lines. I didn't, sit there and run it time and time and again. I just let it marinate, the thoughts, and imagining myself in that situation and what I would do and the choices I would make or wouldn't make and have made, and all the different pathways that she could go emotionally. And then I went into the audition. Boom. And it flowed through me. So sometimes I think we can over prepare. And because we're thinking about, oh, I don't want to mess up the lines and I want to get it right. But instead of trying to get it right, just let it envelop you. Let the situation and the story envelop you, and then just be there. And see.
It's kind of fun because it sounds a little woo-woo in a way, but it really is like acting is imagination, right? And so if we feel a little scared or maybe a little, and I say it in a mocking way, I as I teach acting, as I'm an actor too, I find myself guarding a little bit when I say things like, I hope this is received well, or this kind of sounds corny. But it's like, if you're an actor, you have to tap into that childlike sense of play. You have to be able to close your eyes and do all those visualizations, because that's what I think separates okay actors with amazing actors, people who are willing to do the weird woo-woo fun character development stuff.
You got to do it.
Can you tell me anything about, playing a paramedic? You have to know a lot of language, or you're saying things and doing things that a normal person who is not trained to do so has to be believable.
Jargon that has to trip off the tongue and just kind of flow. You've got to get that right. And so that, yes, is just about just dialing in those lines. We also had a fantastic consultant on set who is a veteran paramedic in Albuquerque, which is where we filmed. This is where the studio is located for Pulse. And she was on set the whole time. So we always have folks that know what they're doing. They know what looks real and what something is supposed to look like, and it's like, no, you wouldn't do this. You wouldn't have that there. No, you're wrapping that the wrong way. And so, Ash Santos, my co-star that's played Nia Washington, she and I were doing it the way that a paramedic would do it. So if you're a paramedic and you see Pulse, I'm sure you're going, oh, yeah, they did it the right way. Yeah. So we pride ourselves on being real on that show.
Yeah, that feels really great. And I'm sure as an actor too, there's always a sense of butterflies about something, but when you have to carry the gravitas of that's like, ooh, that's a lot, but you can channel that, right?
It's a lot. You can channel that. And then when the nerves are flying, and the whole first part of the season, of course, focuses on this huge hurricane. And so, the one scene where I had to come into the hospital and we rescued this family from their home. Literally, we had
would like you to meet your new chief resident, Dr. Xander Phillips.
Water blowing at us, and it was freezing. And then they're also still spraying you with water, right? Because it's a hurricane. And then you're nervous because you want to make sure, everything is going to go well. And then you have to come in and just like spew out all this medical jargon. And you're just like, oh, Lord, I hope I don't get all these names mixed up. I mean, of course, director can yell cut and stuff like that. But, you don't want to waste any time. Time is money.
Yeah. That sounds so fun, like truly living the dream, acting in elements and getting, to be on a set and the studio and all of that. Like, so cool. Congratulations. That's a really, really big deal.
Actors thrive on that stuff. We thrive on that, the realness of it, right? I mean, give me a jungle to run through, or give me, some action.
Yep.
The more real that it is, the better.
So many of us actors at indie levels are used to scenes at a table, or across from one person drinking coffee, and those are fun, and we have to do those things. But when you're braving the hurricane, driving that's just fun. That's where the actor is. Yeah, so great. So everybody, please watch Pulse on Netflix. Keep the eye on it. So it's a renewal. So can you tell me a little bit about this? You said you're teaching this class right now called The Business of Acting. So in the state of the industry right now, a lot of our podcast conversations are around what the heck is happening and how are people finding the ability to be sustainable in making a career. We talked about this on episode 46 when you were on this too, about paying bills and how challenging it is, especially if you're an actor, because you're at the whims of people booking you. What's some of the high level things you're passing along to the students that you're teaching right now about the business of acting?
I think a big part about it is the actor in particular taking back power. And, we just saw it during the Oscars with Honora, right? Independent productions that are gaining traction. And the indie market has always been there. Parker Posey, Crispin Glover, a lot of folks came up through the independent film movement. And so that hasn't changed. But what has changed, I believe, is that now independent artists, and that includes actors, we have more control in terms of not only the content that we can generate on our own, right? But that studios, there's some, studios, their business model right now is that some of them want productions. Of course, they have productions in-house, such as Netflix, but there are also productions that they need that produced in the can, and all they have to do is distribute it, right? So there's a diversity of their revenue streams and their content streams, right? They have live, whether they're doing the SAG Awards, which is a live show, and they secure that. They have their studios in Albuquerque and other places, and they're expanding there. And so they produce their own things in-house. Then they're going after independent producers that already have produced and developed everything, and they just need distribution, right? So you have all these different diversity of ways of getting content onto your platforms. And as actors now, we don't have to necessarily wait for someone to write us that big role, right? We don't need someone just to wait to tap us on the shoulder and say, hey, you're the one, come on in here, kiddo, I'm gonna make you a star or whatever, right? I'm gonna give you work. We can give ourselves work right now. And it seems daunting, but if you look at the life that Issa Rae, and folks that have really forged a path for us, it's not out of the realm of the ordinary anymore. So I tell my students, I say, look, the business is going to continue to evolve. That has never changed. I think what has changed is the rate of evolution, right? You can't, if you have an agent that's just sitting back and pushing buttons and saying, submit here, submit there, maybe you need to find someone that's going to actually actively pitch you, which is what they should be doing anyway. And that's what my agents do. So you have to make sure that your team, right, that works for you. Don't forget that. A lot of times actors are made to think that they have to, will this person represent me? Will that person represent me? Well, guess what? That person doesn't get paid unless you get paid. You're the one out there working. They're working as well. You're a team. And so actors need to take that power back. And that's what I've tried to do in going out there, and you rustle up your own work, insert yourself in spaces that you want to see yourself in, and don't wait for something to come to you. It's not going to be easy, right? Because why? Casting directors don't have offices anymore that you can mail stuff, right? Everyone's emailing everything. Who is looking at all of that email, clogging their servers, right? How do you get into the door? And that is always going to be the biggest challenge for an actor. Issa Rae talks about networking across, or building friendships across, right? Who's next to you? Who's in the classroom next to you? I tell my students that all the time. Grab them. Those are the folks that you want to create community with, so that you can go out right now and you can produce something on your own. Put it up on YouTube or submit it to festivals, get distribution. So right now, I think the biggest challenge for actors and creators are finding, actually, I don't think it's the biggest problem. It could be, and that's finding distribution, right? Finding the distribution that will get the eyeballs that you want. I guess that's the biggest challenge, right? It's not hard to find a place to distribute your work. You can do it on YouTube. You can do it on Tubi. Yeah. There's freebie. There's stuff. There's platforms, but there's a glut of content, great content. So first of all, you got to be great. You got to make sure that your content is like Sinners 2, right? Go watch Sinners if you want to see what good content looks like. Be original, right? And the eyeballs then will find the great stuff. And that's what's going to separate, the chaff from the stuff, whatever they say, right? That's where the good stuff, the cream is going to rise, and that's the good stuff. Tony Hale, that's wakey.
Yeah, if you are watching, I just put up some photos of Wakey Wakey, which is the show that I saw Kathryn in with Tony Hale back in 2020.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. So what I hear you saying here, episode 291, I'm talking Acting Without Limits with Kathryn Smith-McGlynn. And, this is not a surprise, right? This is not news that we have to be entrepreneurs. We have to take our careers into our own hands and be CEOs. And I was thinking about this lately, is the supply is always going to be smaller than the let me say this right. The demand is always going to be bigger than the supply, meaning there's not a lot, right, of the distributors, right, for all of the demand.
Right.
So you've got to figure out how to break through the noise. And if you get all the no's, if you get all the door closings or the people who don't respond to your emails, it can be very discouraging. But I really think what you're saying is some of the best advice is you just have to make a way. You have to, brave your way. Put it out on your own YouTube channel. Put it on Instagram. Create a series like Issa did. It's coming back. The web series and people making these things, the vertical shows. I'm sure you've heard about these too. It's now, what Quibi was in 2020 that quickly died. It's now coming back in a whole new way. Actors are doing these 1-minute episodes that people are watching on their phones, and it's paying people, right? Create your own,
And that's what, I have a 17-year-old. And, that's where he gets his content. I mean, sure, we watch Daredevil. He watches Pulse. We have our IP that we watch. However, the majority of his time is spent on YouTube streaming. I finally broke down and got a subscription to YouTube, so I didn't have to watch commercials. And he is in heaven. He's like, he and my husband are like, oh my gosh, we have, so that's where it's at.
Yeah. The kids, where are they? And where are their eyeballs and where is their money going? Because that is something we have to figure out. I think that's
what you want to watch. That's what you want. Yeah. Whatever the kids are doing, whatever they're watching. If you want to know what's moving along, watch the kids.
So speaking of watching the kids, everybody seems to be doing the podcasting these days, which is great. And it's become a whole new revenue stream. I mean, it's mind-boggling. Like Amy Poehler has a podcast. I mean, everybody has a podcast because it's not easy to do, but it really is. Like you don't need the best microphone. People are doing it from their phones, but these microphones don't cost that much, right? So let's talk about. You have your own podcast. Hey. Let's talk about the Green Room and what you're doing over there at the Green Room.
Over there at the Green Room, I have to give mad props to my co-host Michael Taylor, co-host, producer, Emmy award-winning producer. Let me tell you, this guy, Michael Taylor, created the theater corner, which highlights actors of color doing theater, and it's on KPBS. It won multiple Emmys. Him as a filmmaker, as a director, and he pulled me in to direct the most recent season of Theater Corner, and he's had this idea percolating to offshoot a video podcast and invited me on to be co-host. And that's another thing, just another example of what I said before of going across, pulling people that right, your peers. And he pulled me in, and we have been starting this journey, and it has been nothing short of phenomenal. The artists that we've been able to interview so far, we call it the concrete carpet because sometimes there's no red carpet. We're just kind of out in the front with everything, right? It's the concrete carpet. And we have, interviewed Broadway stars, and it has just been nothing short of phenomenal. These actors and choreographers and directors and casting directors have such insight to offer to folks. And, not just creatives that are up and coming, but just to the general audiences that really want to know, well, what does it take really to create something so explosive like, the Some Like It Hot, which is actually a revival, which is phenomenal. And some of these, shows that are actually headed to Broadway. So we're really excited about the folks that we're able to give a platform to get their voices out there, and to shine a light on them. and inspire.
So cool. I love doing a
Yeah.
podcast too. It makes, it feels fulfilling. It makes me every week, have to settle down, have a conversation, do some research, and then I get inspired myself. And then it's free for people to watch and listen, and people are getting inspired. It really is. And you're exposing yourself too. You're putting yourself out there, and people are seeing you. And I make no. I don't hide this. It's like I am building relationships. Kathryn and you and I have been connected since 2020, and we almost worked together on a short during the pandemic, but it fell through.
I know.
But, right? So, but you just don't know, right? So I truly believe every podcast guest, I'm always going, cool, how can I help them? What can I do for them? And maybe we'll connect together in the future. And that's just a really, really cool thing. So as you're all watching out there, if you don't have a YouTube channel, why not? If you don't have a podcast, why not? Everybody doesn't necessarily need that, but you could. And it is a way that if you feel like you're just waiting around for something to create, make something, make a website. You have to be making something, especially if you're an actor.
Yeah.
You can't just expect someone to drop it into your lap.
No, and sometimes you don't know what it's going to be. I think too much we focus on the end product, right? You see what you've BraveMaker and with this podcast and with the entire community that you've created, and it's fabulous, and it does not exist out there, right? You're giving us something that we desperately need, and someone looks at that and goes, well, I want that. How can I do that? And it's like, sorry, Tony's been building this for a long time. And as you build, you continue to build, and you take away things, and then you add other stuff. And so you have to just start, and don't try to think that all of a sudden you're this fabulous content or this fabulous product out there. You start at this point, and then, there are folks that look back at their very first podcast and they go, oh my gosh, I can't believe I put that on air. It was horrible, but you have to start somewhere, and then just see where it takes you, and just explore while you're doing the thing.
So good. Thank you,
And then we
Kathryn,
can be as
for
great
those
as Tony.
words.
That's the only
Oh gosh. Well, same. Game recognizes game. Even as we're doing this episode 291, and I listened back to our conversation at episode 46, we're still here. We're doing it. You're putting in the work. And you told me back then when we talked in 2020 that at one point you stepped away because you needed to, and you need to take some rest. And I look at my life too and go, I'm walking through some personal grief, and I'm trying to keep my life, together as it's all falling apart. And I'm looking in the fall and going, I'm going to give myself some space in the fall. I'm being realistic that it is a marathon, and the marathon is a lot of work on your emotions, on your spirituality, on your physical body. And so I think the secret is that the only secret is to keep going and to take care of yourself along the way, find the right people, like I hear you say, collaborate, make things, and take care of yourself. Do what you love, but also make sure that you're prioritizing your mental health and your dreams, right? Because it's easy to kind of get lost along the shuffle and the grind.
Yes, absolutely.
Before we jump into our last section, I've been asking this question around our guests. What are some brutally hard truths that you have learned in this business when it comes to anything? I mean, working as an actor, I'd like to hear things you've learned about set life, a brutally hard truth around set life. And I'll ask you some other kind of
about set life.
Set life, yeah. What's a brutally hard truth that people need to absorb?
Set life. Don't nobody care about your problems. Don't nobody care. And, and it's not, I don't mean that. I've worked with some beautiful people, beautiful, great directors, and actors and PAs and crew people and DPs and, all the folks. And, the thing is the brutal part, and it depends on the production and the level of production, of course, and I'm one that, I throw myself into something, and it gives me a way to kind of forget about some of the stuff that I might be going through at the time. But you know, when you walk on there, you're like, what about me? And what about what I feel today and where I am today? You know, that woo woo touchy feely, you know. You may go on a set or two that are, you know, like that, but most sets, you know, you got to come and do your work. And we'll have a great time doing it. But you know, you're here to do the job. If you can't do the job, then stay home. You know? And then that's brutal. And I think that, you know, actually the pandemic, in terms of theater, not sets, but in terms of theater, made that better, where, you know, actors would always push through. You're sick as a dog and you go on stage. And now it's like, you know what? I'm really, understudy has to go on, or you have to, you know, postpone the show. You know, on set, we're dealing with bigger budgets. Let's be real. And you have a lot riding on, you know, everyone showing up. And so if someone doesn't show up, then that's money out of the bank. And so I think that's the biggest thing with set life, is that you need to be ready to get the money shot. You know your lines, know everything, and just be ready to rock and roll. I find that, you know, that's the brutal truth about set life, is that there are so many moving parts, right? And even though there are so many different moving parts, everyone is counting on all of those moving parts, and you're just one of it. But then there's another and another and another, and all of those moving parts have got to come ready to rock and roll.
So good. I also hear you saying between the lines, just the business part, which you're talking about. It is a business, and there's money riding on this. And yes, we want to be all prepared and creative and feeling all the feels because we're living our dreams. But at the end of the day, those shots got to get made because there's money involved. And that is a bottom line that sometimes is a hard truth. So the next hard truth, talk about money, the hard truth about money in this industry. What have you learned? What do you want young and emerging actors to be aware of, or to be ready, or to just to let it sink in their minds, the hard truth about money?
You know, and this is part of the class that I'm teaching, that, and I know, I'm like, I know their eyes are glazing over, and I'm talking about tax brackets, you know, and S corps, loan out corporations, and how you're setting up your business. And I know my students are just kind of like a Ferris Bueller, like, oh my God, is she still talking about this? But you know, the hard truth is you got to do the math, right? You've got to do the math, as you know, what your streams of income are, what your survival jobs look like. You know, you're going to need a survival job. Okay. You want to make sure that is within your field, you know, to make yourself feel better. Unless, you know, if you want to work someplace else, then that's fine. But, you know, I talk about contracts, unions, literally residuals. And it's not the way it used to be. It really is not. And as actors, our residuals today are not the residuals that we had 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, your income would have been higher doing the work that you're doing today. And that is the cold, hard truth. Know what you're going to be paid. Know what holding fees are. Know how long, if you're in a commercial, how long those cycles are running. If when you get those big lump sums of money, you need to put them in the bank and spread them out over the year to pay yourself, because you don't know when the next paycheck is coming. Know whether or not you need to incorporate. Know what your tax bracket is. Know whether or not you need to be in a situation where, you know, look, you've got your gross pay, right? You're going to get net, but anyone on your team that you're paying, you're going to pay them off of your gross. 10% goes to your agent, 15% goes to your manager. If you have a publicist, the lawyer, retainer fees, all of that. And then, I actually have my students doing vision boards as well. What does your lifestyle look like? Okay, how are you going to pay for that lifestyle, right? What is the day in the life of you as a creative when you wake up in the morning? How are you going to structure your day? Because no one's going to say, remember that dream you had? Remember, you got to wake up. You need to get up at this, especially if you're fortunate enough to maybe not have your day job that day. Are you going to sleep in bed all day? Are you going to watch YouTube videos all day? Or if you're doing research, yes, by all means, watch YouTube all day. But you have to structure yourself. And as an entrepreneur, Tony, as you know, one of the biggest challenges is that no one structures our day for us. We have to do it ourselves. No one says you have to be here at 9, you get off at 5. You have to self-motivate, and you have to structure your own day, and you have to hold yourself accountable as an artistpreneur, entrepreneur. And I think that, that's the biggest thing in terms of your money and your day and your career. Because if you're a procrastinator, let me tell you, it's going to be an uphill battle. And I'm a big old procrastinator. Okay. So I have to constantly say, Kathryn, you have to get up and you need to do this in the morning because you're productive. Then you can take a break, and then you need to do that. And don't forget to go work out and then do this and keep your body and mind and spirit together. So there's a lot of things that go into yourself as a business, as an actor. And you have to be honest with yourself with that, and plan accordingly.
That is definitely a brutally honest truth, is be honest with yourself. And simply said too, are you living below your means, right? Going into debt is not the greatest thing for
it's no
artists.
Fun.
It's not a great idea.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Owe people money.
So good. A quick last question before we do our Brave Fave of the week. Gabriele Trejo says, BraveMaker member says, how do you think your higher education experience has helped you in your acting journey? She's asking from a first-generation college graduate with a master's in communication.
Oh, wow. I think about this all the time because sometimes I think I'm overeducated. I have a bachelor's in theater and drama. I have a master's degree in acting and MFA. And I also have this is a separate master's degree. I have 2. A separate master's degree in public administration, policy analysis. It's a lot, isn't it? But let me tell you, and this is being where you are. After I moved from New York City, I think I may have told you this, Tony. I moved to El Paso, Texas, my family, my husband and I. And we had a little baby. And I'm like, I'm an actor and I've got all this and education. And I've just moved from the Great White Way, Broadway, to El Paso, Texas. What am I doing? And I ended up finding my voice in El Paso, Texas. That's where I really started my television career. I started my career as a professor. I started my career as a producer. I founded an equity, the only one at that time, theater company within a 500-mile radius. Had a collaboration with the University of Texas. Had what do you call it? An apprentice program. I provided jobs for the community and a platform for graduate students to come and work. And I didn't know how I was doing it. I literally didn't know how I was doing it. I would drive actually to Austin, Texas. I would work on, I worked on a Hysteria pilot, a bunch of stuff. Or I would go to Dallas and work there, or Albuquerque and work there. And then I would come back and teach my class. And then I would go and direct the show for my theater company. I didn't know how I was doing it. One day I said, Kathryn, how are you doing this? And I sat back and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm finally using all of my degrees. You know, from my acting degrees all the way to my public administration degree. And so you find yourself, you may not know that your education is really helping you until one day you find yourself doing the things. You're doing the things, you're making the things happen. And then you go, oh, I guess I learned something after all. So yeah.
Do the things and figure out what you're learning. Yeah,
really
that's great. Kathryn, this was so good. Thank you so much for your time. Can you give me one more minute and tell me your favorite thing of the week, which I think I might know what it is.
Brave faves. TV shows, films, books, songs, technology, clothing, podcast, food, and more. These are a few of our favorite people, places, and things. Brave faves.
All right, so
okay.
Tell me, what is your favorite thing of the week? Because I wonder if we have the same one. Okay, so you're wondering
My favorite what?
Your favorite thing, anything of the week. Can you hear me? Okay, are we breaking up?
Okay, yeah, you're breaking up. You're a little delayed, but that's
shoot. Okay, cool. Well, I don't know if I'm gonna take yours, but I'll say my favorite thing of the week was Sinners. You already mentioned this.
Oh yes, that's what I was gonna say.
Okay,
yes,
I wonder.
I saw it last night.
Wow, right?
I saw it last night with my mom, and we were both like, but it was phenomenal. Yes, you hit the nail on the head.
The metaphors of art and ownership of race and culture. What were some of the things that made it your favorite thing of the week?
Oh my gosh. First of all, the fact that Michael B. Jordan was believable as playing two different roles. Can I say that? Okay. First of all, just phenomenal. I loved Haley Steinfeld. I thought that, I didn't know she was in that movie. I thought she made her role. All of the actors actually were very believable in their roles. But for me, it was really Michael B. Jordan. I already knew he was a phenomenal actor, but now it's just, he blew my mind. And I just, I would love to see you sit down with Ryan Coogler and talk to him and just, how he is able to, now he wrote, I think, did he write that and directed it?
Yeah.
I think.
Well, I think there was a couple
I think he wrote
writers
it and
on
directed
it.
it, right? I know he directed it, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Did he have a co-writer? But he wrote it. I'm just always fascinated with how, and I'm going to call him an auteur because I think he's an auteur. How an auteur like him is able to put together so many different stories within one piece. And I'm going to be unpacking this one for a long time. For a long time.
I agree. Some friends and I were on a thread, a couple of BraveMaker people, and we were just unpacking quickly on text. And Priscilla, our shout out, she was like, "This is so deep. My mind is blown." All the different things, like with characters and imagery and even just pieces of dialogue.
Yep.
Yeah, I think this is something, the music and that one music scene that everyone's talking about. He took some big swings here. Very exciting. Yeah, the score. Yeah. Well, so good. Thank you so much, Kathryn, for being on our episode 291. Really great to connect with you again. Really happy for all of your success and very excited to continue to watch it. And we'll find a way to cross paths again in person, I hope. Wish you all the best with your teaching in San Diego. If we can do anything for you, let us know. Anything that you want to promote or talk about, please come back. We would love to do more together. Yeah, go
Thank
follow
you so
Kathryn.
much. Thank you for
You're
inviting me
welcome.
back on.
You're so welcome, and sorry for the delay here. But go follow Kathryn. You can find her on Instagram and her website, and we will be posting clips from today's show. This is also a way to build relationships, everybody, with people in the industry. So go watch and listen to The Green Room too. There's so much good content. There's no excuses to be able to move forward with your creative goals and aspirations, because the help, the education, the support, the teaching, the info, it's all out there. Kathryn Smith-McGlynn, thank you so much for being on the show today. We really appreciate you. Bless you. And Brave stories are changing the world, and you are one of those. Everybody else, please make sure you know and set your calendars for our 7th annual film festival, July 10th through the 13th in Redwood City. All of our films will be announced on May 9th. Selections are going out on that day live right here on our YouTube channel. And we encourage you to follow along, like, subscribe, and share. And lastly, if you can support BraveMaker, we are a nonprofit. We are looking for new space. We lost our lease of the studio, so we're moving out into my garage for now, and we are trying to find new space for our offices and our classes, and we just need more support. So if you could become a donor, please do. Go to bravemaker.com/donate today, or text the word BraveMaker to 44321. You'll get a link right to your phone. Well, that's it. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you next time. Episode 292. We have another screenwriter and actor coming on, which I'm very excited for you to meet. And we would love to have your support. All right. Talk to you soon, everybody. Brave stories change the world, and you are the story.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at BraveMaker.org. Like, subscribe, and share. To become a monthly donor, text the word BraveMaker to 44321 or go to bravemaker.com/donate. Thanks for tuning in.